Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhed Vibhagine Vyomavadvyaptadehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us chant. The verses of the first chapter of the Kena Upanishad, which we are doing. Let's see. I think I'll just do it just once, and all of the first chapter. Kene shitam patatim preshitam manaha Kene pranah pratamah praiti yuktaha Kene shitam vacham imam vadanti Chakshuhu shrotram kau devo yunakti Shrotrasya shrotram manaso mano yat Vachoha vacham sa upranasya pranaha Chakshushascha chakshuratimuccha dhiraha Pretyamasmat lokat amrita bhavanti na tatra chakshur gacchati na vak gacchati no manaha na vidmo na vijanimaha yathaitadanushishyaat anyadeva tadviditat atho avitadati iti shushruma purvesham yenastat vyacha chakshire Yadvacha anabhyutitam yena vak abhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yaditam upasate yan manusa na manute yena hu manormatam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yaditam upasate yat chakshusha na pashyati yena chakshun gumshi pashyati Tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yadidam upasate yat shrotrena shrunoti yena shrotra idagum sarvshrutam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yadidam upasate yat pranena na praniti yena pranah praniyate tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yadidam upasate. Before we begin, let me check to make sure that the sound and the picture is going okay. I think I'll make a habit of doing that so that you don't discover at the end of that there is some problem. So give me just a second to check that. Looks like everything is okay. Surendra says both audio and video are good. So I will close it and then we'll begin the class. That's good. So we're doing the first chapter of Keno Upanishad, and at least the first 4 verses of the second chapter of the Keno Upanishad. And then we will take a pause and see what we want to do next, either continue or perhaps move on to some other. We'll see. So in the spirit of the steps that we had seen before, which is that what the Shastras use to give us this, the vision of totality in our life, is that when we are born, we are firmly under the impression that we are a samsari. Samsari meaning that we are a very limited, suffering human being with occasional bouts of happiness, but mostly dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. And that really the world is enclosing me. I'm just a small participant. I do have some family and friends that can protect me and so on, but really speaking, I was born in a particular time, and I know that my life is going to come to an end. So this is the definition of samsara. So this is where I am really searching, and I have no idea what is to become of me. How do I gain happiness and so on? Despite the fact that there are strong hints that there is something waiting to be discovered. So Swami Maheshananji had pointed out that, for example, I know this for a fact, that things in the world are continuously changing. And including my own body-mind complex, they are continuously changing. But I also know that the person who is making that decision does not change. It is the same person that was aware of my childhood, is the same consciousness which is aware of my different stages of the age, different stages where I'm residing, same person. So there is a strong hint that the rest of the things are changing, but I am not. And this we will explore this a little bit in more detail in a few minutes when we take up the verses of the Kena Upanishad. But just to pause and say that there are 2 things that I have a very strong hint, even though I don't pursue that, but I have a strong hint that I am the unchanging. See, that's very obvious, because if I'm also changing, then my life will become totally unrecognizable, isn't it? Because if I'm also changing, then I cannot connect things together. I could not say at one time I was young. If somebody asks you a question, how old are you? You won't be able to answer it, because you are a new person, born new every time. But because I am at least aware of the time when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I remember in my life, my father and I had just gotten into a new home when he was the manager of a coal mine in Bihar, and we were very fortunate to get a very big bungalow, a huge bungalow, which really used to be with Britishers. But my father was the first batch of the mining school at Dhanbad, and he was the first batch of Indians who were becoming these officers. And so all of the old bungalows of the Britishers were given to the new people. And I remember my father and mother moved into this. And I also even recall that I was so young that there was no furniture in the home. We had just put some beds and so on. And this I found to be very refreshing. I was running around like a free bird and just so happy. And from one room to the other, I recall that. And I don't know how I was. I think I must have been 2 or 3. And since then, I have a lot of recollection. And so I could not recall all this unless I remained the same person. Because otherwise I could not say I was young. No, I couldn't say that I'm a new person. So Swami Maheshananji says, listen, this is the thing. They say the whole sense of freedom is all due to, the lack of freedom rather, is all due to non-thinking. There's a very famous verse which says, Avicharita siddham dvaitam. Dvaitam means samsaritvam. That's really what it means. Duality, multiplicity. I am just this much, the rest of the things are different from me. Time is different from me. I'm under the control of time. All those kinds of things is Dvaitam. And Dvaitam is due to Avicharita siddham. It is established by non-thinking, really. It is a fact, but I don't recognize it. So the fact is that I am unchanging throughout my life, but it never really occurs to me. It occurs to me, but I kind of snuff it out. I don't pursue it. What an interesting thing. So Swami Maheshananji had said that, listen, there are 2 very strong things that give you the feeling that you are unchanging, but you don't pursue it. The second thing is that I am Ananda Swarupa. I think we may have mentioned it in one of the classes, I don't remember where. Because it's very obvious that for any human being, the resting happy is a natural state. If somebody is unhappy, we always question, why is this person unhappy? But if somebody is happy, then unless one is uncontrollably laughing at a joke, then we can ask, hey, why are you laughing? But if somebody is quietly sitting there with a smile on their face, we don't question, hey, why are you happy and smiling? This is another testimony to the fact that my Swarupa is Ananda. Because if my Swarupa was Anananda, not Ananda, then that would be natural. If I was crying and complaining, I would say, well, congratulations, you're crying and you are unhappy. That's wonderful. That doesn't happen. So, I am Ananda Swarupa. I am Satya Swarupa. Again, because of non-thinking, I don't really pursue it. Okay? So now, going back to what I was saying earlier, Vedanta knows that I am completely confused. When I'm born and up until the time when I'm searching for my happiness, even though I am happy, I'm not always happy. That's what confuses me. If I was always happy, then I would pursue it, but I'm not. So, Swami Devanand used to say that this is an important thing to see. That I am is never a question in my mind. What I am is a question. And in fact, this is going to be coming up in more detail in Kenopanishad in a minute, so I'll defer the discussion on that. Anyway, going back to the stages of Praptasya Prapti. So the first stage is that I think I don't know who I am, where am I going, what's going to happen to me. This is kind of like thinking that your credit card is completely lost. And then something happens that narrows down the search considerably. And so in my case, it was a recognition that I had used the credit card the previous night. And in the case of Vedanta, there is an authentic Shruti that comes in and says, hey, you're making a mistake. Finding freedom is not that hard. It is not away from you. It is within your reach. And so the entire set of Vedantic literature, and starting with the actual teaching by a live person, is to assure you of that. It is very much like the buddhi that came to me saying, oh my gosh, it's not lost, it's around here somewhere. That buddhi, that clarity of thinking is provided by Vedanta. Now this is what we are studying in Kenopanishad and all the other Upanishads that we have. That is to provide you with the buddhi. It doesn't mean that you're going to just find it. So there is an intermediate stage where it says it's around here somewhere. I know it. So that changes the very tenor of your search. And because in my case also, I don't have to worry about calling people and being worried about it and all that. My search is almost pleasant. It's still there. Search is still there because I haven't found it. So the Vedantic literature provides me with that kind of help to do. But as we will soon discover, I think the more I think about it, that credit card example really fits into the stages of the teaching of Kenopanishad. As we will see, there is something that more needs to be done. Because until you get your hands on it, you're not completely happy. In the Taittiriya Upanishad, it is given the various stages of Ananda is given. Same thing in the Panchadashi that we will study, the 11th through the 15th chapter of Ananda analysis. Brahmananda, Vishayananda, Vidyananda, all of those we will study in more detail. But in the case of Kenopanishad, the finding, the actual, I was talking about the example of Taittiriya Upanishad. In Taittiriya Upanishad, the various stages of Ananda are given as Moda, Pramoda, and Ananda. Moda, Pramoda, and Ananda. So the Moda means knowing that something is going to happen which will be very pleasing. Heshanji gives this example. He says that suppose you are a parent in India and your son or daughter has gone abroad to study, and he's talking about those days in the 1970s and 80s whenever he was giving this discourse. It was not easy to go back and forth. Certainly was not the case with me. I came here in 64, and it was very expensive. Recently I read that Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, had given an interview to somebody that he says, my father gave up an entire year's of salary to send me to the US. And I think I can understand the same thing happening to my dad. It was a good amount of, and I had to get teaching assistantship at Berkeley. Otherwise, he would not be able to send me any more money. I'd have to go back. So I worked extra hard. Somehow or the other, I got a TA-ship. I still remember $250 a month. And My apartment was 75, the food was another 75, 100, and I think the school fees were somewhat, so I somehow managed it. Anyway, the point is that in those days things were so expensive, and I could not go back to meet with my parents until my marriage was fixed 3 years later. And that was when I went back and met my bride to be and my parents after 3.5 years of being here. And I can guarantee you, if my marriage was not fixed, I probably would not have had the chance to go back. And so it was very difficult. Anyway, Swami Maheshanji gives this example that he has a parent living in India at that time, and the daughter, let's say, goes to the United States, and she is not really in touch very much, because there's no email, and there's only Western Union telegrams, very expensive. And so there was and letters is the only way and the letters would take about 15 days to reach. And so they were starving to see her. Then a letter came, Mom and Dad, I've got a job, and I think now I'm coming home, and I'm coming home on such and such day, and I will be in Mumbai. Then you can imagine the joy of the father and mother. This is called pramoda. This is called moda. Moda is the first stage. That there is an assurance that it will be here. It is kind of like knowing that my credit card is not lost. But then, when this daughter steps off of the plane and you see the daughter in person, that joy turns into pramoda. From moda, it turns into pramoda. And the same thing happened to me. I remember this so well when I came back to India, and my bride-to-be and their whole family were all waiting towards the end. And my sister, my father and mother were still in New Delhi, but my sister and my brother-in-law and the whole family, they were all there in Calcutta. And finally, when I came out of the customs and walked towards them, there was great joy. And I also see my wife-to-be Pami for the first time. And so there was great joy, great anticipation. This is called pramoda. And then it wasn't until we gave a big embrace. I didn't embrace my bride-to-be, I was not supposed to, but at least to my sister. This is called Ananda. And so the Vedantic stages are exactly the same way. First, you are Agyani, you don't know what's happening. Then there is Moda, by a clear understanding, by vichara, that my gosh, you are right. I am the unchanging one. I never thought of it. And I am the very nature of Ananda, which is Ananda is very natural to me. Any dukkha that I have, any problems that I have, is like an outside thing which is impinging on me. And I'm just waiting for it to correct itself. Then I regain my own swasthya, my own sense of being. And so this gives me a certain moda. It gives me a certain way of thinking which is very pleasant. I already studied this. And so here, this is really the discovery of Ishvara. Discovery of Ishvara. Really, the Atma Jnanam is really Brahma Jnanam, Ishvara Jnanam, ultimately, as we will see in more detail. And so this is the first stage of the discovery of Ishvara, that there is something which is unchanging. I don't yet know how the unchangingness of myself and the unchangingness of Brahma is related to each other. But this is what the Kenopanishad points out, and we will see that in a few minutes. Anyway, so this is the process that we should be cognizant of as we study the Upanishads. Okay, so now let us pick up the thread from last week and go forward with the study of the Kenopanishad. So, what we saw in the last class was, and by the way, I think what I'm deciding to do, and I mentioned that to you even before, I'm going to follow the concepts of Adi Shankara's Bhashya on the Upanishads. If I am teaching an Upanishad, I'm going to base it on Adi Shankara's Bhashya, but not read the Bhashya word for word, because the Bhashya is meant for a variety of students, some of whom are have lots of time, they're very studious, they want to go into the detail. So there the Purva Paksha and Siddhanta is all taken up. In our case, I have to look at the audience, the fact that we are not studying in an ashram every day, 3 classes a day or 2 classes a day. We're only doing 1 class a week, and also that got interrupted. And so I have to hold together the thoughts in such a way that doesn't take too long to finish, and yet you get the very essence of the teaching. And so I have to modify it, and I think I've found that this method is a good one, where I do follow Adi Shankara's commentary, because I can't think anything better than that. I think this is what we should all understand, is that this is really a avatara of Ishvara. Both, so this is exactly Shiva, Shiva Arambhat, Shiva, and then Vyasacharya, and Shankara is the Madhyamam. These are all Ishvara's words. And so these are not ordinary words, they're just absolutely phenomenal. And so if I can follow it and explain it, I think that will be a good fortune. That will be so wonderful. So this is what I intend to do. I'm going to follow the basic concepts of Adi Shankara Bhashya on the Upanishad. If the text is not an Upanishad, then we have a different issue. We can follow Swami Maheshananji's commentary, or Swami Dayananji's commentary, or Swami Paramarthananda's commentary, or something like that. But if I'm teaching an Upanishad, then I'm primarily going to rely on Adi Shankara. So this is what I'm doing now. So as part of that, I think this Vedantic Insights course starts by having a pretty good detailed analysis of Kenopanishad. You should know that, and I think you do know that. So what we did was, in the second verse of the Keno last time, we had finished the second verse, I'm sorry, we finished the second verse. Because the second verse was the answer to the question, Shrotrasya Shrotram Manaso Manaha Yad Vachoha Vacham Sa Pranasya Pranaha. And we also covered why this answer to the question, Kene Shutam Preshitam Manaha. The question is, impelled by whom does the Manaha and Chakshu and Shrotram, they all work? That was the question. And so the answer was, it is the eye of the eye, it is the mind of the mind, it is the ear of the ear. So there the person said, hey, I don't understand this answer. I wanted you to tell me some person who is doing all this. Perhaps Ishvara should be doing this. Ishvara is behind all this. You should be saying that. But why can't you, this is a very strange answer. So the answer to that objection was, no, this is the only way we can describe the power of the Atma. As we saw, the example to be kept in mind is the electricity and the appliances. And so we already went through that if somebody is saying, wow, this is a beautiful instrument, and something is powering it. Who's powering? What's powering it? And then somebody says, well, this is a fan, and what a lovely air that it is giving. And then somebody turns to the light and say, wow, who's behind the light? Is it the same thing that is giving, or are there different things that are powering the fan and the light? And so the answer given is, in order to understand the power of electricity, it provides the power to the fan. The same electricity provides the power to the light. They are completely different instruments, appliances, but the source remains the same. And how best can I do it? I can't say that another lamp provides it or another fan provides it. It's not. It is a power which is independent of the kind of appliance there is. This is an interesting thing to see. I want you to think about it. That there is, in fact, only one source of power. Power meaning the ability to get things happening. Only one source, not multiple sources. Not multiple sources. A beautiful discussion. I don't know, perhaps I don't want to disturb the flow of the arguments. I don't think I will. I'm just going to continue. But there is a very beautiful analysis of Ekadeva Vada and Bahudeva Vada. Swami Maheshananji had given this excellent example, and I want to convey that to you at the appropriate time. It will take me quite a while to do. So let me not interrupt the flow of the Kena Upanishad, because I have something that I wanted to convey here. But I look forward to explaining the significance of Ekadeva Vada and Bahudeva Vada. And in this discussion, the various religions come into the picture. The Christianity, the Buddhism, the Islam, and some of the Vaishnavas and Shaivas. These are all Dvaitins, by the way. And then the view of the Advaita, which is the very essence of the Hindu thought. And so that contrast between the Bahudeva Vada or Ekadeva Vada and how that should be thought about is the topic that I will talk about at some other time. Anyway, going back to this, one thing we should just think about it, that there is only a single source of power in the whole creation. And this is the power of Brahman, power of Atman. This is the same power between Jivatma and Paramatma. And really, the differences in Jivatma and Paramatma are not in the power itself, but in the upadhi. Differences in the upadhi between Jiva and Ishvara. So here Swami Maheshananji had given a beautiful example. In fact, Swami Paramarthananda also had given the same example. So the electricity remaining the same, if it is a small wattage lamp, then the light emanating from it will be weak. But if you have a very powerful lamp, then the light emanating from it will be very strong, isn't it? But the weakness and the strength of the light emanating from two different types of lamps is not due to the weakness or the strength in the electricity, but in the upadhi, in the appliance itself. So similarly here, it is the same Brahman which is powering each one of us. And we are an upadhi. And it's a variety of different upadhis. Some upadhis are brilliant, very capable. Some upadhis, some people are dull. So the dullness and the brilliance, the goodness and the badness, all is based on the upadhi, not on the Atma. A criminal has the same Atma as you and I, assuming you and I are not criminals. So there's no difference in that. Another thing, one I think an important implication of this thought, this line of thinking, is that as when we see all this, that it is the power of the Atma and so on, and a doubt can arise in our mind, oh, wait a second, I am really not that powerful. How can I be powering all this? I am really limiting. I am a limited being with very little power. I can't even spell transcendence, let alone know what transcendence is. I have difficulty even understanding what Brahman means. And how can I be doing all of this? This is the doubt. You may not verbalize the doubt, but your mind is posing that doubt to prevent you from really understanding the truth about yourself. To which the answer should be, really speaking, I think this is an important thing to see. Don't look upon yourself as a Jivatma who is powering your upadhi. It is really Paramatma who is powering your Jiva upadhi. Because the power of electricity is so much, it has no limits to it. The power of Brahman has no limit. It is the same power that powers the entire cosmos. Powers the entire cosmos. How the various galaxies and the stars and the various heavenly bodies, the gravitational forces, the light, the heat. What a remarkable thing. It is all powered by the same, because there's only a single Devata, which is Parameshwara. And it is the same Parameshwara which is powering your ability is what I was saying, that really when I started to understand when I read the story of Anjaneya, of Hanuman, and I just suddenly really realized that, wow, this is what I need to worship Hanuman for this reason. And Hanuman had all the power, but he never really invoked it. And here Swami Paramarthananda had given us a very good word. I really like the word that he uses. And he says, please claim your power. Invoke it. Claim it. It's very much like, as we have seen the example, that you've been given a legacy of $1 billion from somebody, dropped into your lap, and there was nobody close, and so you're the nearest relative, and now you're living a hand-to-mouth existence, and a lawyer calls you and says, guess what? You've just been given $1 billion. It is such a large amount that I cannot even think about it. And so you kind of like, just like you are in denial. And understandably so, because you can understand $1,000, maybe $2,000, and Social Security, and this, that, or the other, but $1 billion you cannot visualize. So you say, okay, I understand it, but I don't know. I'll have to think about it. So the lawyer also checks the bank balance after a couple of months, and nothing has been withdrawn. And the lawyer is the fiduciary of this account. So his responsibility is that it should be used. So he calls you up and he says, you haven't claimed any of that money? So you say, I should do it, but I don't know. This is exactly what happens. He says, why? What's the problem? He said, no, really. So there are doubts whether it really is mine. And then what will I do with it? How will my life? All those questions kind of keep you in abeyance. So Swami Paramarthananda's use of the word claim it. It's a very beautiful one, very powerful one. And the same thing was given to Hanuman by his elders. And he says, Hanuman, you are the son of the Devata called Pavana Devata, who is the very source, which is the source of wind. That's your genetics. And flying these 20 miles to Sri Lanka is nothing for you. Invoke that power, claim it. And Hanuman finally just rose up, just from a crouching, sitting down posture, to expanded his chest, because the realization that, my God, this is true. And, as they say, the rest is history. He played havoc and claimed the most difficult prize for Rama and extracted Sita from the jaws of Ravana. And so when I have, my wife does prarthana to Hanuman with Hanuman Chalisa, and I began to understand the significance of that for my life. And when I do my puja in the morning, I thank him and I ask him, please invoke in me the power help me to invoke the power of what I am that I am not using. So the point I wanted to make was that as the discussion goes about Shrotasya Shrotram, Manaso Manaha, so all these kinds of things, that you are the power, I get the impression that I am shy of owning it up, because I don't know if I am responsible for this. And I can power all of this. Am I that powerful? I don't think so. No, I can't do that. I can't even do normal small things. There, substitute Paramatma from Jivatma. It is the Paramatma. Why can I substitute? Because it's the same power. There's only one power, which is Ishvara's power. You don't have a small power. The smallness of you and I is not in the power, but in the appliance. And we are mixing it up. So we are superimposing the smallness of the appliance to the power and making it small power. You see, this is what's happening. Well, I'm just not that powerful. And yes, we are indeed not powerful to do things. That shouldn't bother us. Because as the very essence of the power, I'm unlimited. And the moment I turn the attention and the moment I do vichara, thinking about me as an Atma, not as an appliance, but me as an electricity, it's a different ballgame, a different vision altogether. So, this should be kept in mind. One should not summarily dismiss, how can I be powerful? Because all this description is about the great power, which is me, but I don't realize it, don't understand it, I don't get it. And when I get it, sky is the limit. So that should be kept in mind. Anyway, as we progress forward, we spent quite a bit of time in all of this, but so here he says, then we went to the third So in explaining the essence of the Atma, which is like the essence of electricity, in the verse 3 was given that na tatra chakshu gacchati, na vag gacchati, nau manaha. So no, it's interesting, the no in English is also kind of like the no of Sanskritam. In Sanskrit it is called na. In English it is no. But nau becomes no. Not indeed. Who here means definitely not. Definitely not. Absolutely not. Na tatra chakshu gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manaha. He says mind also cannot objectify it. Because, anyway, that will come later on. Because they are within the creation, they can only light up things in the creation. Whereas the Atma is outside creation, in the sense that it is like the very battery of a flashlight. The flashlight can light up some things here and there. If you've lost your ring and it is dark, it can light up the ring. But if you say, can you please light up the battery itself? You can't do that because the battery is outside the scope of the flashlight. It is the one that is powering the flashlight. This is what we have to see. Atma is powering my entire life. From the time that I'm awake in the morning, and in fact to the time that I am going to sleep. And during sleep, in the whole 24 hours, it is powering my experiences. I am now awake. Now I am breathing. Now I am getting up. Now I'm brushing my teeth. Now I'm drinking tea. And now I'm reading the newspaper. It's powering each one of those experiences. And now I'm very tired. Now I'm very happy. Now I'm very unhappy. And I'm very sleepy. It's powering all of them. And then you want to understand which is powering it. Can I see what is powering it? No, I'm sorry, you cannot see it. I cannot see it? Well, you can see it, but not really the way you want to see it. This is going to be the topic as we progress through Kena Upanishad. And so he says in verse number 3, if I can read the English translation from Paramarthananda, or just following the Hindi. Then in verse number 4 he says, Anyat eva tad viditat atho aviditat adhi iti sushruma purvesham ye naha tat vyata chakshire. So he says, this is a very important verse, really speaking. It is really worth thinking about. We talked about avicharita siddham, dvaitam. So this is the vichara that pierces that avicharam. Anyadeva tad viditat atha aviditat adhi iti sushruma purvesham ye na tat vyata chakshire. So he says, first he says that the words cannot objectify it. The words not objectify even, the words cannot reveal it. It cannot, like for example, when you have a flashlight, the light of the flashlight can reveal either the presence of the stolen ring, of the lost ring or not. Is it ring underneath the sofa set? So you can do that. You say, nope, there's nothing there. Is it over someplace? Oh yeah, it's underneath the table. So that kind of revealing, the eye and the flashlight cannot do. And so it is kind of like, narrowing down the search by saying where it is not. Yeah, it's a very beautiful thing. So we'll go back to the analogy of the credit card. You can say, even though I haven't found it, but it is not outside the home. It is not in other rooms of the home, not likely to be. Like there are some rooms that you don't frequent. You haven't been there for days. Basements and so on. It's not there, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. So you're eliminating by implication that it is around here somewhere. You're narrowing down the search. So here also, na tatra chakshu gacchati, na vag gacchati, na manaha. And he says, in fact, we don't know how to reveal it in that manner. Na vidmaha, we don't know. And we also don't know if it can be revealed in this manner by anyone. Okay, so you don't know how to reveal it. But maybe I should go to someone else who can show me who I am. This is exactly what happens. This is not just words. Na vidmaha na vijanimaha yatha etad anushishyat. This is an important thing to see because we fall into the trap. We are desperate for finding happiness, some peace of mind. And if I tell them this is the way, I don't know what else to do, you might say this fellow doesn't know. And this happens all the time. I have so many people who have left. And they find that, attending the hugging mother, this is the way to do it. Or you can go to art of living, where there is, in fact, this is what happens. Anytime there is an emphasis on peaceful experience, and so hugging the mother or doing pranayama through the aim for seva, the art of living, then Buddhistic the various camps in Buddhism where any kind of meditation and so on is very attractive to me because I have a difficult life full of problems, and if I can just be with myself, I like that. In fact, I must tell you, this is interesting. If I look back at my own early career, how I slowly got onto this track is just amazing. And I remember this so well. Perhaps my most the portion in my life which was most disturbing to me was when I was trying to do too much. So I was working for IBM at that time, full-time job, and struggling as an engineer. There were some very important design things being done, and I had to learn a lot of new things, so I was really racking my brain on microprocessor design. And then all of a sudden, I had promised my mom that I was going to go back to India after 6 years, after doing PhD, and I did not do my PhD. And so I thought that I would at least do something else. So I enrolled in an MBA program at University of Santa Clara. And instead of just taking 1 or 2 courses, I wanted to finish it in 2 years. And like a foolish person, if I could just go B or something, no, I had to get A's on all of them. I worked so hard in the evening, worked during the day, and it had an effect on really getting my mind not settled down. I was just so stressed out. Difficult for my marriage also, because my wife also could not make friends. I was so busy. Those 2 years were the worst ones. I almost needed some drugs to calm me down, but I didn't. Luckily, that passed things over. And I remember one of the first things that happened was that I saw there was a yoga class given in the Foothill College by a yoga teacher, a Western yoga teacher, whose name I have forgotten. This must have been 70, 69, somewhere there. But I tell you, I enjoyed that class so much. It was in the big hall. It was very cool and quiet. And this teacher was so calm and collected. And he went through some basic asanas where the breathing and so on, for the first time really in my life, I think, I discovered that I don't need to do things to be happy. I'm just I'm just lying down and just enjoying my own self. That was turning around the ship in that direction. It really calmed me down. Then I read the autobiography of a yogi and then so on and so forth. So I was really primed for this when I met Swami Chinmayananji in 1973. Ishvara has been very kind to me. And I could have really gone crazy, but somehow I got retrieved in this whole process. So all I'm saying is that if somebody has an experience of happiness like this in doing some pranayama and so on, that's what you want to go to. That's what you say, okay, I don't want to do this, I just want to go do that. Because the experience of happiness is very powerful. And the study of the books and so on and so forth, it's okay, it's good to know, but nothing like. And same thing with people who listen to music. Their mind calms down. They really enjoy themselves. It's wonderful. And later on you find out that really the music also comes from Ishvara. It is the Nadaswara from the Ishvara that really gives you that peace of mind. That's a separate thing, but at least you enjoy the music. Same thing on good food. And so all pleasant experiences are a sure short way of really going towards it, isn't it? So he says, in the understanding of the Atma, we don't know how we can point that out. It is not like an experience only. It is an experience, but it is much more than that. It is an experience which is backed by knowledge. So the sunrise is also an experience. But the fact that you can have the experience of the sun rising while fully realizing that I don't really have the sunrise, it is really the movement of the earth is the experience plus the knowledge. So that kind of a thing, he says, we don't know how else to give it to you. And not only us, no one else can give it to you. So I think one of the things that happens is that if you go to non-Vedantic sources like Buddhism and Jainism and Islam and so on and so forth, they might give you an idea that that it is to be aspired to. In fact, this is going to come. I'm actually borrowing a lot of these things from. So here, one of the ideas is that that why can't we just do, and the same thing happens in the Hinduism, in our own Vedic thought, that why can I go to the temple and then I can go to Vaikuntha and Vishnu will take care of me, Indra will take care of me. So that can be done later on. I don't understand what Atma, how useful it can be today. And so you go around it somehow or the other. You don't really follow it as you should. You renew your search again. Instead of knowing that it is right here in your room, you are now, again, you haven't found it for some reason. So then the doubt started coming up again. Well, maybe, I don't know. I haven't found it yet. You say it is around me, but I haven't found it. So then the hints are given clearer and clearer and clearer until you find it. And so don't give up on the way. Don't doubt it. This is what the Shastra is saying. So, iti shushruma purvesham yenaha tat vyata chakshire. So he says, it is this is how it is revealed in our Shastras, and I don't know how else to tell you. So in fact, in some of the satsangs with Swami Dayanandji, this was I wouldn't say a common question, because the students are very polite and so on, but once in a while a new student would ask this to Swami Dayanandji. And his answer is very revealing. This is exactly what the Upanishad is saying. Iti shushruma purvesham ye naha tat yata chakshire. So the questioner will ask Swamiji, are you a realized soul? Can you tell us if you are a Jivan Mukta? And I remember Swamiji's answer. He's given this a couple of times, but most people don't ask this. But once in a while, this kind of a question comes up in a general satsang. And Swamiji's answer is, I cannot tell you if I am a Jivan Mukta. But what I can tell you is, I can make you into a Jivan Mukta. This is a very good answer. And in fact, this is what is pointed out in these verses number 3 and 4. So I've already kind of danced around it, so I've not followed my own edict of following the Shankara Bhashya. And so let me do that, which is more pure in terms of how this needs to be approached. I just gave you a general idea of it. So let's go into the Shankara Bhashya. And so here Adi Shankara says that how this can be described as clearly that this is what Brahma is, we don't know how to do that. And just like, for example, you see something very clearly right in front of you, this is not that way we can point out this. And so this way is not possible to do. So this there's quite a bit of material here which I did not present in an orderly way. So I will try to do this better next time. But anyway, let me end the class with a few things here. So I don't want to keep you hanging. So several things are presented here in fact, I tell you what, let me just focus in on one concept here, which is an important concept. And there may be others that I have not touched on, and so I will arrange it in my mind and go through the notes next time, and I will make sure that nothing is left out. But let me just concentrate on this one concept. He says, Anyat eva tad viditat atho avididat athi. So adhi. Adhi also means anyaha. So it means that the Atma is different from the known and different from the unknown. So the second adhi is also in the sense of anyaha. Anyat eva tat viditat. Viditat means one from what is known. It is different from what is known. And also, atho means also, aviditat anyat. So adhi should be replaced by anyat. Adi Shankara points it out. So it just means that the Atma is neither known nor unknown. So this is a very important thing. So if you look at what is unknown, then you need to find a method of knowing something. Like, for example, things are either known to me or they are knowable to me. They may not be known today, but they may be known later. So that is all viditat. Vidita means one which is known, which is subject to be known. Like, for example, these days in the baseball, there is this, right now actually it is going on, maybe over by now, there is a match between the American League and the National League. The best players are there in one of the baseball stadiums. And so there are 28 baseball stadiums. You may have visited a few of them, but the other ones are visitable. You can go and visit them. So they are all known or knowable. So the Atma cannot be known. You can go to any place and you say, is Atma around here? It says no. Did not know. Then it means it must be unknown. So unknown means there are things that you will never know, but they are there. So the Maya Shakti is one of them. So there is some kind of a Shakti which is powering the world. And so that Shakti which will not be visible to you in terms of giving you karma and karma phala, the results of your action, memorizing what was done before, which you and I have forgotten. So all of that is unknown to you. Is Atma one of those which, what that unknowingness means is that its karya can be known, but the karana cannot be known. Like, for example, in the case of a wind, you can never see the wind, but you can see the effect of the wind. So is it unknown like that? Is one of those? He says no. So it is neither known nor unknown. And so it is a third category which is neither known nor unknown. And what is that? This is explained in a very nice manner by Adi Shankara. And this I will complete next class, this concept. And the conclusion of that is that this is a Mahavakya. This is like Tattvamasi, because the only thing which can be different from the known and different from the unknown is you, the Atma. Anything which is different from you can be known, or perhaps can never be known very well, like the Maya Shakti. But if this is neither the knowable nor the unknowable, it must be you only. So this is an important point, which is like a Mahavakya. And so this I will go over in more clarity. I perhaps just slid that in at the end of the class and was not able to reveal the true nature of doing that. So I will do so, and I will also look at a couple of other smaller concepts that these things are revealing, which I was not able to see. So I will systematically look at it in the next class. So with that, I will like to end the class today and with a prayer and see if you have any questions. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamidam 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 Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. I have to go back to another way of looking at it. That wasn't right. YouTube videos. Yeah. So Balamani says if the Atma is outside the scope of Manaha, how can the Manaha can comprehend and understand Atma? So this is a good question, and this is what we will go over. So if you'll kindly be patient, so this we will go over in more detail in the subsequent ones. So yeah, but good, yeah, it is possible, but not. The short answer is it is possible to be done by Manaha, but not in the conventional sense. So this is what is called, you cannot do the Shakti Vritti. I'll explain this in more detail some other time, but it is done through a Vritti which is a secondary Vritti, by implication, not the direct Vritti. When everything else is negated, this is the only possibility, that's when the mind grasps it, even though you're not directly seeing it. And so, so please table your question until we get to it. So Amit, is it Padabhashya or Vakya Bhashya? Generally speaking, I am going to follow the Padabhashya. Occasionally, I will supplement it with Vakya Bhashya. But I would say 80% of the time, the Padabhashya will be the one. So what Amit is asking for is, this is a very unusual Upanishad where Adi Shankara has written two Bhashyas. What is called Padabhashya, which means is the word translation, and the Vakya Bhashya, which is sentence translation. So I would assume that the sentence translation or the bhashya was done later to clarify some of the points. So this doesn't occur in any of the other Upanishads. This is the only Upanishad where that happens. So both are available in the Gita Press book in Hindi, in English, and in Sanskrit and Hindi. Both are given side by side. But I find that so far, 80% of the explanation is done very well in the Padabhashya, and in some cases, Vakya Bhasha is used. So that's how it is done.
What's the recipe for surprising the kids, treating yourself, and ditching dish duty? You're looking at it.
All right. Since I don't have any other questions, then I'd take your leave. And very nice that you could join the class today. And look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. Om.